Welcome to the Twist Out Cancer podcast, which delves into the emotional journeys of those touched by cancer, offering a platform for survivors, caregivers, previvors, and loved ones to share their experiences. Through intimate conversations, this podcast explores the power of creativity and connection in navigating the challenges of cancer. Guests will discuss the transformative impact of Twist Out Cancer's unique programs and highlight the resilience of the human spirit. We're so happy you're here. Let's get into it.
Hi there, and welcome to Twist Out Cancer's podcast featuring Power Partners Spotlights. My name is August Spree. My pronouns are she, her, and today we are talking with Leah Phillips in Kentucky, founder of Young Lung Cancer Initiative. Lung cancer is on the rise in people under 50, and Young Lung Cancer Initiative is providing support to those dealing with that diagnosis. So we will talk with Leah about her involvement in the cancer community, how she got connected with Twist Out Cancer, and what we can look forward to seeing from her in the future. Welcome, Leah. Thanks for being here. Okay, so I want to start with your story. Can you let us know how you got here, how you identify within the cancer community, and of course, like how your experience led to Young Lung Cancer Initiative?
Sure. So I actually was diagnosed with stage 4 non-small cell lung cancer at 43 years old in December of 2019 as a person with no known risk factors at all. No smoking, no chemicals, nothing environmental that I knew of. And when I was diagnosed, I was shocked because I didn't even know that I was at risk for lung cancer. You could have told me that I had 10 other cancers and I would have been like, oh, I could see that. But lung cancer was definitely not on. And because your lungs don't have nerve endings, most of the time, the majority of the time, if it's symptomatic, it's because it's already spread. So I was diagnosed with stage 4. It was metastatic. I have 3 children at the times. At the time of the diagnosis, they were 9, 13, and 14, and the statistics were very grim. Devastation is the only way you can explain it when you're told you have about 2 years to live. So that is kind of how I got into the cancer world. And then as I've journeyed on my path here, I've met others along the way that are also diagnosed young without the traditional risk factors. And we unfortunately lose a lot of people in our community because lung cancer does take more lives annually than breast, prostate, and colon cancer combined. But because of the stigma, people don't like to talk about it. So through that, I realized that somebody needs to be an advocate for these patients, especially someone that is able to do so because they're healthy enough to do so. So I advocated locally and at the state level. And then almost 2 years ago, not even 2 years ago, I met virtually, myself and another girl from Kentucky met Bianca, who is from Boston, virtually in a lung cancer group. And together we put our heads together thinking we've got to do more for this population of what we consider young onset diagnosed or young lung cancer patients. That just means that you're diagnosed with lung cancer at 50 years or younger, because for most of us, we do not have a history of tobacco use. And and none of us, because of our age, qualify for the pre-screening for lung cancer.
Wow.
So what we thought was going to be a teeny tiny little thing we did to just get the word out about this age group of people has morphed into this huge thing. And it was not even, like I said, March will be our 2-year anniversary. So that's how I got into my space.
Okay, so I want to press pause because I want to hear more on your 2 years journey, but talk a little bit about the stigma that you mentioned where people don't want to talk about this type of diagnosis.
So lung cancer just has a really bad stigma in general. The average age of diagnosis is around 70 years old. 80% of patients with lung cancer do have a history of smoking. The other 20% are people like me that do not. And unfortunately, there's such a stigma around it that when you tell someone you've been diagnosed with lung cancer, a lot of times, 9 out of 10 times, the first thing people say are, oh my goodness, how long did you smoke? Or do you still smoke? Or why did you
So people
smoke?
say that to you?
Instead,
Oh
oh,
my God.
absolutely. And if you ask most I've never met a lung cancer patient that hasn't been asked that
Wow.
question. Um, And because of that, it's a very I don't wanna I mean, there's no shame in having lung cancer even if you did smoke, but you do feel a lot of shame and a lot of loneliness, because you don't fit the typical demographic. And I even tried to go to a support group, and I walked in and there was 2 older gentlemen in the room. They were probably late 60s, early 70s, and they were kinda snickering, but I thought, "Whatever." I just sat down and one of them says, "Sweetheart, we think you belong in the room across the hall." And I was like, "Oh, maybe they separate us according to, men and
Yeah.
women or whatever." So I got up and looked out the window or out the door, and the sign on the room across the hall said breast cancer.
Mm.
And I thought, I don't even fit with the people that I
Uh,
fit with, that I am grouped with. And that was a big eye opener. And so this stigma just holds everything back. It holds back
yeah.
funding. Lung cancer is the one of the least funded cancers, um, and it's the number one killer of cancer patients. But because of the stigma, it doesn't get people think, oh well, they did it themselves. We're not going to fund that research, or we're not, So it's kind of an uphill battle. There's also kind of a divide between the smokers and non-smokers in a way that smokers are told or asked not to say, I never smoked or I'm not a non smoker because it could be offensive to people who did choose to smoke. Um, and really, just the stigma hurts everybody because any research or awareness that's brought on by someone like me, it's my truth, it's my story. Um, that research will help everyone, not just the people that are the no, non-smokers or no tobacco use
Right.
history. It's just, I think it's probably the only cancer where people get quote unquote blamed because even when you hear someone has melanoma, they don't say, well, did you wear your sunscreen? Or if somebody has cervical cancer, they're going to say, well, did you have HPV? Nobody asks those kind of questions. It's really a unique situation to
Mm.
be in.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I'm a survivor anyway of a different type of cancer, but I would not ever think that if someone told me their diagnosis to ask if they like did something, that just wouldn't occur to me. And that is really frustrating that that is your experience and so many others experiences as well.
Yeah.
And then I also,
But, smoking is asked about on every
yeah.
form. Like every health person asks you, even after you're diagnosed with lung
Hmm.
cancer, before and after about your smoking history. So it's definitely a
Yeah.
real thing.
Who, okay. So you started Young Lung Cancer Initiative to basically get the word out about screenings or like where did it start? Just about awareness that people get
Well, I think it
diagnosed?
started with the fear. I think so. So when we were talking, there were 3 of us that co-founded Young Lung Cancer Initiative. One has since retired, but Bianca and I are still running it. And when we would talk, there are 3 things that really need to happen for this patient population. One is there needs to be visibility. Visibility that we're out there, but not only that, visibility for the disease so that people who don't have symptoms yet, who don't have cancer yet, if they hear somebody's story saying, I had a cough for 4 months, it didn't
Mm,
go away, it ended up being lung cancer. Just more of it can happen to you, all you need is lungs, versus it only happens to people with a tobacco history. There was that piece of it. There was empowerment as the second piece, which is really just empowering people to be able to say, I have lung cancer and this is my story because that's the one cancer you don't really hear people talking about a
mhm.
lot, their personal experiences, and the empowerment to have the correct information to be able to advocate for yourself. And the last piece was hope. Hope that that there is hope there, that this is not a death sentence. Most of us diagnosed, well, all of us diagnosed stage 4 are labeled as terminal, and our treatment is just palliative. No matter how long you've been on this journey, my chart at 6 years, almost 6 years later, still says those words. You don't ever
Yeah.
unhear it, but that there is hope, that there is so much research, and there are people living longer. People that go into this disease healthy live longer. There's different treatments. So those are the big 3 pieces. But really, it was about building community around a disease that didn't have a community for you.
And offsetting that shame and maybe the blame that they might be experiencing that are coming from other sources. Um, okay. Can we
Yes.
talk a little bit also about what you touched on, your mom? How old are your 2 boys now?
Well, I actually
Oh,
have 3
3.
kiddos,
Sorry.
and so I have, yes, so my oldest is 20, and he's a sophomore in college. My middle is, getting ready to turn 19 in a couple weeks, and she's a freshman in college. And then my youngest is 15 and he's a freshman in high
Oh,
school.
okay. Yeah. So three, two boys and a girl. And you're a survivor and still taking care of yourself, you know, and focusing on that.
Yes,
And you started a whole nonprofit. First of all, I love women. We're amazing. But
I know they are. They're resilient.
yes, can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the like just navigating life alongside of knowing that you needed to start something that was going to help other people in the midst of everything that you were going through and finding balance for yourself?
Yes, that's kinda tricky. So, you like I said, we thought this was gonna be like this little teeny tiny thing that, like, really grew quickly to a big thing. So, I think, first and foremost, my most important job is, taking care of my kids. I was staying home with them prior to my diagnosis, so they're used to me being available and whatnot. But as they have gotten older, I always thought I would do something. I just wasn't sure what. And in my prior life, I
Yeah.
was a teacher
Aw.
and I love
Yeah.
educating. So, um, I think education is the key to power, really.
Yeah.
That's just how people make it is by knowing what they know. And so when we were discussing, like, I was thinking about it, discussing with my family and then with the other girls, like, what can we do here? I knew it had to contain an education piece. So that is very, very near. I think it's life giving
Hmm.
for me. I think meeting other patients for so long, I didn't have any connections with people that were close to my age experiencing the same thing. That's life giving as well. And I also remember back to my diagnosis of reading the statistics and thinking, being told I had 2 years to live and just being devastated and just needing to connect and wanting to connect so deeply. So I think that's kind of the
Mm.
driver. Balancing it is very
Yeah.
hard because, like I said, I stayed home. My kids aren't, and my husband too. He's like, I'm not used to this. They're not used to me having a schedule other than what they're doing. And, you know, uh, it's been kind of a little bit of a change for all of us. And I'm still trying to figure out how to balance that. It's easier during the school year when everybody's gone during the school
Hmm.
day. It's harder in the summer when I feel like I want to be home and attentive. And then, of course, you've also got the underlying my own health. I had surgery a year ago. I had to take it a little bit slower, rely on the other people that were helping, Bianca and Lindy to help
Hmm.
me. Because, every day is like, since it is a stage 4 diagnosis, you never
Yeah.
know. But I do try to prioritize my own health through exercise and, you know, doing things that I enjoy, like reading
Yeah.
or sewing or, being with my friends. But
Yeah.
it is a balancing
I
act.
mean, I find that balance is a day-to-day thing. There's not like, a one formula, of course, especially when you have a family
Mm-mm.
and you're dealing with like health, concerns where that can change day to day. But
Right.
I also think like I always say if you want something done, ask a mom because I just feel like there's a different way of managing like many plates when you just kind of learn how to do it when you're a mom. Yeah.
Multitasking.
So, but I do think that I really like how you pointed out that doing these things are really life-giving for you. I mean, the educational
Mhm.
component, it makes so much sense that you were a teacher because I see that so strong in the Young Lung Cancer Initiative like website and the resources that you have. Um, but yeah, I mean that just struck me that that is also like feeding your spirit, which is beautiful, really amazing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yes, if it ever becomes something that distracts from life or doesn't serve me, then it will be time to wrap it up. But I mean, like as long as I'm healthy and I think it's good for me since I'm not going back to like a traditional job of teaching that this would be a good way to kind of let my natural gifts and
yeah.
talents show.
Okay, so I want to talk about what you're doing with Young Lung Cancer Initiative, like exactly like the things that are going on, what you have on the calendar, what's coming up. But before we get into that, I wanted to touch on the fact that you're currently participating in our Brushes with Cancer program and just like chat about how you found out about us and why you decided to be an inspiration.
Okay. So, well, the way I found out about you guys is that I attended ASCO in May in
Hey.
Chicago as a patient advocate, and I know I love that. I loved it. It was
Yeah.
great. I loved being around all the like happy about excite not there's some bad news too, but the energy around it, I think, is what it is. Knowing so many smart people and good people have got their brains on one, area that of oncology. But I was invited to a reception one evening, and I didn't really expect there to be anybody speaking or anything. I thought it was just going to be a welcome reception where you're just kind of, talking and eating. I was pleasantly surprised when I walked in and there was all this beautiful artwork displayed around the room. And you know, I didn't like when I started seeing the artwork, some other patients and we were just kind of talking about it and we're like, oh, these are people's stories. And we're kind of like, getting out, like looking at it, reading the program. And then you spoke. And I remember just thinking, what a gift to patients that they're being like heard and seen. And something beautiful is coming out of something that's so tragic, not meaning it ends in
Right.
death, but just tragic to your life. It's life changing. It just kind of blows a hole in everything you thought your life would be like. Um, and then you spoke, and I was just amazed. And I left there and I told Bianca, I was like, we've got to get in touch with them. This is so cool. And I wasn't even really thinking for myself as much as for our
Yeah.
patients. We're always trying to help our patients find places where they can get help or there are other resources because we can't do it
Yeah.
all. We can't do it all.
None of us
And,
can. Like,
you
yeah.
know, yeah. So then I was like, I don't know anybody that's done this. Maybe I should look into this because you hate to refer somebody to something that's not really that the way it was, presented. So that's kind of how we evolved and speaking to you. And now I'm an inspiration and I'm so excited. I talk to my artists and there's so many things that we have like almost in common that are like just very ironic. And I can't wait to see what comes out of it, what kind of art it is. But the other side of it is when I said I was a teacher, I was a teacher, but interestingly enough, I taught home
Oh,
economics, which is kind of like a dying thing now. But so I taught the sewing, I taught creative crafts. I like to do those things. And I do think it's such a therapeutic thing for everybody, for kids, for adults, that just working with your hands and other tech, other mediums and whatnot. And it's something that's easy to put by the side as a patient and a working person and a mom. But this kind of just brings it back forefront. And then my hope is that after I have mine done, and there's actually a few other people in our community that are doing it as patients, that it will just
yeah.
spread and more people will experience it.
Yeah, I think giving people a chance, which is why I do what I do, but giving people a chance to tell their story can in and of itself be so healing. And that's where I feel like this is such a good partnership and collaboration between our two organizations because that's what prompted you to start your organization, to say, hey, this is my story and
Mhm.
it's not really being heard. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
It's so cool to think, like, I mean, obviously, I have put my story all over the place, but a lot of people are more
Yeah,
private, and this is a very intimate way to share your story, to have it depicted without your face or name attached to it necessarily when someone else puts it in their home or it's displayed somewhere,
right.
like, it's just really
Yeah.
cool. I think it's just amazing, really.
Uh, well, I'm really happy that you're participating and I'm so happy. I'm excited about your match. Um, But
Me too.
moving back to what you're doing, tell us like what's on the calendar for Young Lung Cancer Initiative that's happening right now, what's coming up in the near future, how can people get involved, all of that.
Okay, great. So we are doing a lot of really exciting things. So right now for people in the lung cancer world, a lot of the non-small cell lung cancers have oncogenes or genetic markers that drive our cancers. So we're doing a patient education series right now on the most common biomarkers. So when we educate patients, we try to educate them from different viewpoints. So oftentimes it's a podcast style with myself and a patient that's been diagnosed with that specific type of cancer or lung cancer, or they're experiencing a certain
Hmm.
thing, because it's a shared experience. You can learn from watching, and it's relatable. But then we also tie in a professional like a researcher oncologist that gives the true medical facts, um, and kind of the research behind it. So we're working on that. We are really taking time now, I think, to start focusing on our community. We have a private Facebook group for patients and caregivers. We have about over 3,500 people
Wow.
now in that group. I know it's crazy because we started with like, 7,
Yeah.
10, 40, like it's just
Yeah.
grown. And so we're looking at like things like you guys, where it's other nonprofits that are out there to help patients along this journey. So we are really excited about our kind of how we're approaching things with you guys, with, me being an inspiration, but then also, encouraging our members to, or our patient population, to attend the Twist Out Cancer or the Twist shops, and, look, investigating what we can do together. So it's, we're calling those spotlight
Wow.
partnerships. And we're also got one right now that's actually just launched a couple weeks ago, with Wonders and
Oh, yeah.
Worries, which is an organization that helps parents navigate with their kids their diagnosis. So we've got some other organizations we're doing things with like that. So that's going to be a big push. Probably they'll come out in 2020,
Mm.
end of this year, beginning of 2026. Um, and eventually, our biggest goal is to have like an inpatient where we meet patients, where patients can get together and just, share in community. So, I mean, obviously, we have a website, which is ylci.org. But more than that, if you just look for Young Lung Cancer or Young Lung Cancer Initiative on social media, you're going to see us and see what we're up to. But, we have merchandise that we sell. We are always looking for people who want to do in-kind donations to support our programming. We also give gift cards away to help patients with financial toxicity, along with that comes along with cancer. So, whether it be they use it to pay for gas to get to a second opinion, or just their regular appointments, or Christmas presents for their kids, or wigs. We've had somebody, like, there's all sorts of things people need assistance
Yeah.
with. Um, that's great. But, honestly, what we love the most is people sharing our social media post and helping us educate the world that lung cancer is not discriminatory based on age, that anyone with lungs can get lung
Mhm.
cancer, and that you need to pay attention to the
Yeah.
symptoms of lung cancer before you get a delayed diagnosis. So those are the
Yeah. Your
biggest
social
things.
media is so educational, and I really like how
Oh,
engaging
thanks.
it is where you kind of do these moments of just talking about something, and it's really easy to share. So definitely that's a good easy way for people to kind of get into it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and, if you have someone that's been diagnosed with lung cancer at 50 or younger, please send them
Of
our
course.
way. Anka and I both do a lot of individual, like, reach outreach to patients. We try to build that's something we even though it's growing, we're trying to keep it feeling very
Yes.
small, and,
Like intimate.
sending cards and messages, and just a really, back to the basics type of
Mhm.
relationships.
Connection, really. That's what that's
Yes.
what we all need, but especially if you're going through
All
something.
about.
Yeah. Um, okay, this is
Yeah.
beautiful. So it's you next time. Thank you, Leah.
Well, thanks for having me.